All right, cool. So, welcome to Ep.2 of the Health and Physical Education podcast. And this is my second guest, Mr. Andrew Greene. He is a coach, a physical education teacher, and an athletic director for the PSAL. Welcome.
Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for having me. Very excited to see you guys and share. I wish I could actually see you guys. I hope you guys are having a good summer, and hope this is a little insight into the world of phys ed and all the different careers you could have with this type of degree.
Yeah, so why don't we just jump right in? I'm pretty sure our students would like to know like how you became a physical education teacher. So if you could go into your educational background, I think that'll be very informational.
All right. So I guess growing up, I was like I wasn't the best student. I always got by, just never really studied. 80 student, just by kind of trying to wing it.
Hmm.
And then in college, I got a little more serious, studied a little more, um, and basically, I mean, in high school, I was playing baseball. In college, I stopped playing sports and then played a little bit. So I had a little more time, and it was either study or get high or something. So I chose the right choice, thankfully, and I
Hmm.
started doing really good in my grades. But when I graduated, I never had any thoughts of being a teacher. My grandparents were teachers, music teacher and Spanish teacher, and they were always telling me, take education courses, take education
Hmm.
courses. I thought teachers were such losers who couldn't make it in the real world. I
Hmm.
thought that they like, oh, okay, they're hiding from like life and stuff.
Hmm.
So I had no thoughts of being a phys ed teacher. I graduated with a degree in psychology and media studies, and I was basically just going to go do real estate. And I
Okay.
bought a house when I was like 22. I was renting it out. I started working in construction management, and I was miserable.
Hmm.
And I came to a point where I actually became a Christian, and my priorities changed a lot in my life. And
Hmm.
then just changed my whole mindset kind of changed and was like, all right, I don't have to be a millionaire to be happy or
Hmm.
feel fulfilled in life. So that's when I went back to college. I started working in after school, went back to college while I was doing that, subbing, because you could
Hmm.
sub with a 4-year degree.
Okay.
And I went back to college to get my teaching certificate and my master's. It was like a one program at Queens College. And then after
So
that,
all that happened at Queens College.
yeah. Well, my first 2 years were in Oneonta,
Okay.
and that was where I studied psychology. Then I transferred to Queens College for media studies. Then I went back when I was around 26,
Hmm.
27,
Hmm.
to get my teaching degree.
Okay, cool. I'm pretty sure like, students, it would be helpful, like, what are the costs of like, especially trying to get an education degree, like, a rough estimate, because, obviously they may be thinking about like, well, how much is it going to cost for me to go to school if you give like
Right.
some round estimates.
I mean, thinking back, it's been so long, and I know costs have risen a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
back then, I remember it maybe being about, gosh, maybe like $1,000 a credit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Queens College wasn't super expensive. I could be wrong. I don't want to give you the wrong answer. But I remember altogether, I left college with maybe like $15,000 debt that I ended up paying off over time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's so many programs now that I didn't necessarily look into that could help with those costs, especially with CUNYs and SUNYs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that that if I probably could have qualified, but I didn't look into it.
Yeah, you didn't know what you didn't know, because now the DOE actually has a loan forgiveness program where if you work, at a Title I school for, I think it's 4 or 5 years, they'll forgive your student loans.
Yeah.
So, that's something that, our students, if they decide to become teachers, could take advantage of in the future, if the
Yeah,
program is still there.
just a note to the students, like even though we're teacher, we don't really know everything in regards to applications and all these different programs.
Mm-hmm.
But find the adult in your school that does.
Mm-hmm.
They could help you, and it could help tremendously. I know my wife was part of an EOP program when she
Hmm.
went to Stony Brook, and that helped her tremendously. There's so many programs.
Hmm.
So just try to talk to a guidance counselor or somebody. Keep asking around so somebody gives you the right answers. It's really important.
Networking. I mean, you did do real estate before, so I'm pretty sure like networking skills are important, especially
Yeah,
like in any professional career, right?
big time. Just you never know who you're gonna talk to that is gonna have a job opening or an opportunity. The way I ended up at the high school I teach at now
Hmm.
was because the middle school I was teaching at, there was a teacher who started her own school.
Hmm.
She left, started her own school,
Hmm.
and then my one of my friends who taught there was like,
Hmm.
"Hey, they need a phys ed teacher," and if it wasn't for that networking, I would have never got that job. The first time I ever started teaching, as well, it was like a full-time sub position because my friend was like, "Oh yeah, I think my school needs a phys ed teacher." So yeah, you just talk to
Yeah.
people, let people know, try not to be too closed up because you never know, not to be fake about it, where like you're
Yeah.
using people, but you just never know how, you want to help people, they want to help you too. So
Yeah. No, very true. So I'd like to jump into why you became a physical education teacher. Like, if you could just, expand on that a little bit more.
right. So I talked a little bit about it earlier. So I grew up always playing sports. Sports was life. I
Mm-hmm.
played baseball at Cardoza. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I spent so much time doing it, and then just playing basketball all the time, being a camp counselor in a sports camp. But I never really loved kids like that. Like I kind of did it for myself because it was just fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then that's when I had the transformation and change in my life where I started actually having love for kids, or because I saw myself in the kids,
Mm-hmm.
the same struggles and stuff. So that's when becoming a phys ed teacher, it was like, why not? Why not combine the two, like my two passions, which is like teenagers and
Mm-hmm.
sports? Like, why not combine the two?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and ever since, I mean, it's been, I've never felt like I've worked. Like this is stuff I do for free. If it's the summertime, I'm at
Mm-hmm.
the basketball court playing basketball. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
do,
true.
or I'm going to the gym to work out. Like that's what I do. So I do that for a living. I mean, there's certain things you got to skill. You got to keep things organized. You got to have lessons, and there's that stuff. But I mean, I'm just doing what I love to do, so it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that way. Yeah, and I think like what you said is like seeing yourself and remembering everything that you did in high school and stuff like that is easier, to relate to the kids because I think it's like, when you share your experiences, it's easier for them to learn from you, especially whatever you're teaching, whether it's sports or, anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, stuff like that. Um, uh, if you don't mind me asking, also, what about you becoming a coach and an athletic director? How did that come into play?
So for coaching, I started coaching before I even was a full-time teacher. I was subbing, and it was one of those networking things. I was subbing
Mm,
at a school,
mm,
and one of the teachers there was a friend of my friend, and
mm,
somehow we figured out that we knew each other. And then
mm,
he's like, "Oh, I'm coaching the girls softball team at Van Buren High School."
mm,
So I'm like, "Well, I live across the street from Van Buren, and I played college baseball. I'm like,
mm,
maybe I could help out a little bit." So I started helping out, and he's like, you're a better coach than me. He's like, I don't really feel like coaching them. I kind of do it just to kind of do it, and I'm going to be moving. How about you take over? And then that's when I started coaching at Van Buren High School. I coached the
mm,
girls softball team for like 4 or 5 years. And
mm.
then there was an opening in girls bowling there, and I'm a bowler too. I mean,
Okay.
I got into that, so I started coaching girls bowling.
Uh,
With this, I'd make my softball girls play bowling in the fall since they already
mm,
had their medicals and stuff. We ended up being really good too. We really transformed the program. I think since I left it, I think it kind of folded. It's tough to get bowlers, but so then and then when I went to the new high school I'm teaching at,
mm,
I became the basketball coach, and then that's kind of how that led to becoming the athletic director. My principal was the athletic director,
mm,
and she was just like, "Look, I don't really want to deal with all the paperwork and all the ins and outs." She's like, "Do you mind doing it?" And I was like,
mm,
"Yeah, sure, I'll give it a try," and it's
mm.
been cool.
Okay. So that our students get like an idea, like what is the income range? Like, what can they expect if they wanted to coach a sport or obviously later on down the road, because I know it took you a couple of years to become an athletic director. Like what kind of income expectations can they have?
Right. So in New York City, everything's very structured.
Mm,
Where if you go outside of New York, it's kind of more by your district. So in New York, though, anything you work out of your regular workday, which is contractually, 6 hours and something minutes, right? Whatever you
mm,
work outside of that is $50 an hour, and
mm,
it sounds like a decent amount, and it is.
mm,
But when you deal with taxes, they're going to take out a chunk. So with coaching, every sport is allotted a certain amount of hours.
mm.
So if you coach something like football, it'd be like, I don't know, a lot of hours.
Yeah, it's
When
like
I
it's like
coached
a
girls
hundred
softball,
something hours. Yeah.
yeah, maybe even more. Because when I
Yeah.
coached girls softball, it was about almost 200 hours. So
Okay.
200 times 50, it was, you're looking at like, well, no, I couldn't have been that much, $10,000. But it ended up being around $6,000, $7,000 a season for a sport. So if
Okay.
you're coaching a fall sport, if you're coaching a winter sport, and if you're
Mm-hmm.
coaching a spring sport,
Mm-hmm.
and you could make an extra $20,000 just from coaching. And then if you do summer stuff, that could be even more money. So there's ways to make money, but it's going to take some time. Yeah.
Course, it goes back to like what you said, building up a network, developing the skill of coaching, actually being able to speak to your players to improve their performance. Like, it's not like you just woke up and you were able to do these things. I'm sure you had to read a lot of books on coaching, right? You had to have, I'm pretty sure, some kind of mentor or people that you look to, videos and all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, I would, thankfully now, with because like I said, I wasn't the best student, so I'm big into watching YouTube videos. So I did read a book from a coach from UCLA back in the 1950s and 60s named John Wooden. He was an
Mm-hmm.
all-time great coach, and he had a lot of these like theories that he put into practice, like rules and he just based everything off of these like simple rules. So I try to incorporate those things because
Mm-hmm.
I started seeing like, I'm getting some decent athletes, but the chances of going pro are probably very slim.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a chance to take the students and these young adults and help mold them and help them to just be better, humans, and set them up for later in life. So that's kind of more of the, one of my coaching goals was to just kind of build them up more as people. And as a result, we build trust and love. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, last year I was coaching co-ed softball at the school I taught at. I'm still teaching at, and we won
Mm-hmm.
the city championship, and that was great.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it was really cool. It was co-ed softball, and so
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't that many, and it was for my school that I teach at is a transfer school, so it's for kids that got either dropped out of their other high schools, or maybe
Okay.
they got kicked out or whatever. So now they
Uh-huh.
go back to high school. It's a second chance high school,
Okay.
and there's only maybe about 8 teams, but it was great. Like, and I know I talked to any of my team from that, and it was all we all remember it. It was like an all-time memory.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I get what you're saying, man. Coaching is very rewarding. Like, I coach boys and girls cross country at the school that I work at, and it's amazing because like when I first started with the program in 2017, when I first got to the school, it's in Long Island City. Um, they didn't. It wasn't like a program. Like, whoever was coaching before was not doing the right thing, and then I came in. I was like, set a structure, a system, better communication, and they went to like not placing at all to like we don't even have they run on the streets of Long Island City for practice. We don't have like a field, we don't have anything. And my kids placed like top 10, even some of them placed first in Queens wide races. When it came to the citywide races in Van Cortlandt, they placed top 20. And we don't have any support like other schools, like buses, uniforms, any of that. It's like you were talking about like John Wooden, like setting a system or principles, and that just snowballs into like this effect. I remember after my first season, it was such like a phenomenal change that my runners, they got me this plaque. Like that was amazing. I did not expect that. At the end of the season, like we went to a diner by the school, to have like a team, last team eating or whatever. And they're like, Coach, we want to present to you this plaque, this wooden plaque. And they had gathered up pictures and they put it in the plaque, and it's gold plated. and
Wow.
I'll show it to you one day. Like it's like my most prized possession. I was like, wow, like
Uh,
in 1 year, like I was able to do this. So I know what you're talking about, man. It's a very powerful, position being a coach.
it's yeah. We never really know the impact that we have, and it's just kind of being ourselves. Um, just following simple principles of just doing your job and doing it well, trying
Mm,
to work hard, not just wasting time just trying to get a paycheck, but actually doing there. And like the kids, they know our heart and they know our intent. And I saw it from, I mean, I know from my coaches the way I look back and think about them, and I
mm,
see it from my wife. My wife played high school basketball and D1 basketball over in Stony Brook, and then
mm,
transferred to Queens College too. And she always tell these stories about her high school coach and how he paid for her to go to camps and do
mm,
all this stuff. And I'm just like I want to be talked about that, and I want to have an impact like that for some of my students. That when they're 30, 40 years old, they're thinking back and like just telling them stories about their coach. And it's funny, I just some of my old players just texted me and they were like, "Hey coach, how's it going?" And it's funny because now they're the age that I was when I coached them, and they thought
mm.
I was like so old. And now it's like I can't believe you're this age. You seem so old. Like, oh, are we old? And like, yeah, now you're old too. And it's cool. So they still remember, they remember little things, little practices, the things that were the worst. Like the first week, I always put them
Mm,
through Hell Week, and it would be
mm,
like just a time with no equipment, just straight up running, and I
mm,
wanted to see who's really into it.
mm.
And they remember those things though, and like those are the memories, and like those are the things you take away as a student athlete is the camaraderie and those little things. No one really ever remembers like who won the city championship that year. Maybe you kind of
Mm.
remember, but it's more of what you take away is the relationships, and it's special. And some of those relationships you can have for the rest of your life, which is
Yeah, no, I mean it's so crazy, like especially when, like you said, when you talk to the players that have left your program or whatever, but when they come back, like the following year to help out, like I've had my cross country kids graduate, they go to college, but when cross country season started up, they're like back, they're like coach, like we want to come help, we want to come, cheer, we want to help, like the new kids or whatever, and
wow.
and it makes your program like that much more, I guess more fun for other people to want to join because like if people are moving on technically becoming like adults at 18 but they still want to come back and hang out with high school kids, it's like yo, I want to be a part of that because
Yes.
I've never done recruiting at my school. I haven't had to. After the first season, all my runners, they just told everyone, and I started with, I think I had like the first day of practice I had three kids for cross
Wow.
country. It was the first day that I had practice. And then by the time the season started, I had like six. And then I think I had like tops like eight. Like there were times where we barely had enough kids just to make the meet.
Yeah.
And then my second season, I had 25 kids. Just I didn't
Wow.
recruit at all. All the kids would say, "Oh, you got to come, you got to join." And like you said, I was talking about the jokes we
Yeah.
would make in practice, or any of the things that they would do before the races, like the camaraderie. That's so important. I completely agree with you.
And that's
Um,
that's one of the great things about our profession is that
mm,
we can make a difference in kids' lives, and all we're doing is just going to work, like that's it. And doing other things, like whatever it is, you might not necessarily have that opportunity to help people, which is great.
yeah, no, you're right. I wanted to get deeper into I guess like the more scientific aspect of physical education and how you can apply it into your everyday life. But what's your opinion on like having the mastery of kinesiology, anatomy, physiology, like the scientific aspect of it? How does that help you be a better teacher? How does it help you be a better coach? Could you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, there are times I'll definitely use those things, if not in, probably more so in a classroom,
Mm-hmm.
where I'll be teaching fitness related things, or in the weight room I'm
Mm-hmm.
teaching I'm teaching about those different aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's things that I didn't realize I learned from college that I apply in when coaching, as far
Mm-hmm.
as like oxygen uptake levels and VO2 max and all these things that I was just like, why am I learning these things? And
Mm-hmm.
then, you kind of learn the science behind the physical, and then you put those together, and now you have, you can really help an athlete out, be the
Mm-hmm.
best they could be. But I could say one thing that the schools, as far as colleges, are lacking
Mm-hmm.
is more application when you're teaching, because no one prepares you for when a kid says like, "Yo, mister, I'm not doing any of your work. Like, what are you going to do about it?" Or, "I just slept all night on a train and now you're asking me to do this do now," and then curses me out because I'm asking them to, finish. No one prepares you for that.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of what, what we get is coming from, the state, not in the city. Even the city, not every city school is the same. So I would like to see a little change in that, as far as preparing teachers to deal with like real life stuff, like real life teaching 101. Like, what is
Mm-hmm.
the real deal? What if your principal
It's
not
not
have
supportive.
yeah, what if the person's not supportive? Or what if, there's XYZ? There's just different things that college doesn't necessarily prepare you for, which you kind of have
Mm-hmm.
to learn on your own, which is the case in any field. But it is good to have that scientific background, kinesiology. I mean, and just the fact that I was able to finish it was such a feeling of accomplishment, because I
Mm-hmm.
was like, if I could do this, I mean, I could do anything. I would put limits on myself as a kid. I would say I can't pass the chemistry region, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to be a phys ed teacher because there's too much science. Like, I put limits, but when you get older, your brain is developed a little different, your reasoning is
Mm-hmm.
developed a little different, so you're able to focus better. And when you start to do this, your self-esteem starts to increase, because you're like, I'm not dumb. Like, I could do this. I used to always, this is just me. I used to just be like, "Ugh," and I'm just thinking, how can I make a
Mm-hmm.
joke in this class? How can I bug out? And then when I went to college, that really wasn't happening. So I was able to really focus on the lesson. I'm like, I could do this. And so it's cool for
And
anyone
I,
that's kind of
yeah,
to do it.
I think it's good that you obviously speak about your personal experience because like you said at the beginning, like people think that because we're teachers we know it all the minute like we graduate, and that's not true. Like we're constantly learning. Like obviously we may have more information than the average teenager, but at the same time there's no replacement for experience, like you said, especially like, dealing with students who have different personalities, different home situations, and even just communicating this college level material that we have. I'm lucky that I teach at high school. It's easier where I don't know how well I would do in an elementary school setting. Like it takes a different skill set to do that. So I
Yeah.
completely agree with a lot of
People
what
are
you said.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, if you're gonna get into the field, there's such a range. You could be a kindergarten teacher where you're just acting every day, and that could be you, and that's cool.
Hmm.
Some people are more into high school and just being, just think about some of your favorite high school teachers, kind of more of that vibe. There's definitely a difference for sure.
Yeah, no, you're right. As my last question, I just want to ask is, so as a physical education teacher, right, and a coach and an athletic director, what is the best advice that you can give students now in regards to not only like taking care of their physical health, mental health, emotional health, those things, but just moving forward from the transition from high school into possible career areas as adult professionals.
Well, I would say, I don't know what necessarily your skill sets are,
Mm-hmm.
or what you feel kind of called to,
Mm-hmm.
but just never put any limits on yourself. Never feel that you're not smart enough, or you come from a background where people don't do that, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like you're kind of leaning towards something, give it a try. And the worst thing that could happen is you find out, okay, that wasn't for me, and that's not a failure. That's a
Mm-hmm.
success, because you realized, okay, that's not for me. One thing to check off.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you have no idea what you want to do, that's fine
Mm-hmm.
too, because people don't know what they want to do necessarily, and that's why you got to try different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and don't always chase money,
Mm-hmm.
because if it comes to just money, you're probably
Mm-hmm.
not going to love it. If you love to do what you're doing, you'll end up being successful because it won't feel like work and you won't mind putting the time in. And then eventually the money comes. So just be patient, follow your heart, and whatever you feel that, you're going to get called to, branch out, be okay with making mistakes, be okay with just trying new things, and you'd be shocked to see what you could accomplish.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So this comes to the conclusion of episode 2 of the Health and Physical Education podcast. Thank you again, Andrew, for coming on. It was a pleasure speaking to you and, hearing all your experiences. I'm sure, our students are gonna, listen to this and have like, a different opinion about what we do. And I would love to have you again sometime in the future.
Yeah, definitely. It was fun.
All right, man. It was good talking to you, man.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye.
All right. Bye.